time. The first thing I want to say is my dad, I'm Juliette Munsell. My dad, Barry Munsell, and Eric have been best friends forever. And my dad right now is living on a boat in the Bahamas, which Eric thought was a good deal, right? That's a good way to live your life. And he couldn't be today, but he wrote a letter for me to read today, and then I'll just go into mine. So, this is a little difficult. From my dad, Barry. Eric Eichmeyer, I am sorry to not be able to attend Eric's memorial service. I am, however, very glad that I was able to speak to him on a number of times recently. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With the distance of many miles between our homes, it is with some satisfaction to have continued our friendship. Eric's passing reinforces my feeling that life is indeed very short and that we need to relish the time that we can spend with our family and dear friends. No one's passing is more on my memory than that of my son Mark. Eric loved him too and was very shaken by that event. Mark's passing changed and brought home to me the reality of the inevitability of passing from this earth. I met Eric when we were both very young men, and the thought of any of us dying was the furthest thing from our minds. Now both our mothers and our children are gone, as well as my now leaving us to carry on. My children were raised with Johnny Green stories. Does anybody know?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Good. I got a couple. My children were raised with Johnny Green stories, with a large mix of scary stories that kept everyone fastened to Eric's side as he told them. Other adults didn't have the stamina to stay with the kids during get-togethers that Eric did. There's nothing that I can say to friends and family of Eric that can add to the feeling of honor and respect that he richly deserved. I only want to join voices with all in remembering the great storyteller, comedian, father, and friend Eric Eichmeyer. That was nice of him to say. My name is Juliette Munsell, and I was Eric's goddaughter. Eric was a constant in my life from the time I entered the planet until he left. You know?
You know.
I will attempt to share a few stories about him so that his stories and him in turn will live on forever in his stories, you know? Let me start by saying this is the world's loss. This is not my loss, not just my loss. There are no words that could ever come close to describing the force of nature that was Eric, but I will try to do the best and make him proud in a few short moments. My earliest memories of the dark-eyed, Italian-looking man. Eric was Italian when he wanted to be. Looking man who had the ability to enthrall all of us kids. Chris, Eric, Beth, and Laura lived next to us in Spring Forest, and we became close friends and family. One night, Eric was with my brother Mark and explained to my parents how Mark had been blessed because he was born blonde-haired and blue-eyed. Because, you know, their first-born son was not so fortunate. They just, try and they might, my parents just couldn't love their brunette son. And one day, that firstborn disappeared. There were rumors that he was even buried in those very woods of Spring Forest. Eric was alone with Mark during the story, by the way. My brother, Mark, enthralled, kept looking wide-eyed and innocent. And then Eric said, "Mark, what's that?" As he inspected Mark's blonde head and carefully plucked a brown strand. No, I swear I'm blonde," said Mark. My brother ran to my mother, begging her to believe that he was a blonde and to never let him go. After Mark realized he wasn't going to be offed or disappear, and Trish, my sister, realized that I was not going to be born a kitten, which is a separate Chris and Eric story, we all realized that Eric didn't only have the magic of Johnny Green. He transformed the world to a child, and we were all so lucky and eager to be a part of his world. My relationship with Eric was special, always. Probably because I was born blonde. Or because my parents had he and Christy, my godparents. Either way, the man known as Irk for all of my life was more than just family or friend. From berating me for not knowing what lettuce was in a game of categories, referring to money, at 6, to opening the box of Cheez-Its in IGA, walking through the aisles, acting as if it was normal. As I grew up, I lived with Eric and Pam at different times, and it sounds like I know that they always had somebody taking in. But when I was going to college here, Eric, Beth, and I went to go see a scary movie, What Lies Beneath, and in every suspenseful part, Eric would make some inappropriate, loud exclamation. In one scene, it was very scary. Beth and I were, were just so scared, and he screamed, "I can see her boobs!" Or in another scary movie, he would do things like, "There's the bad guy." I mean, that's the kind of thing that he did. He used to make us all sing Stevie Wonder's "I Just Called to Say I Love You" while we were on roller coasters at Six Flags. He taught Katie to fish. Eric was one of a kind. I could be here all day telling his stories, and I must just add that I had written this because I could never really capture Eric, so doing the best I can. As much as he loved to be the comedian and embarrass us, he was also the only person on the planet that you could call if you needed to move a body or lend an ear. Without questions or judgment. From your laughter, I can tell that I am not alone. I was fortunate enough to be a part of Eric's life today. I spoke to him 4 or 5 times a day, always for 2 hours on Mondays and 2 hours on Fridays, and as often as we could, we would get long conversations in. He went from being my godfather to my person in life, to my best friend, my mentor and advisor in business and personal decisions. In the last 30 years, he's been a constant. In the last few years, I feel very blessed to be able to have returned the favor to him. I think he made everybody feel as if they were his best friend. I think that's who he was. He was my best friend. I spoke to Eric the day of and the days leading up to his death. He was very happy. He was very content. And I know that there are a lot of people that he had seen recently that he hadn't seen in a long time. And I don't think that's an accident. He literally told me that everything was going his way. I teased him a lot in the last few weeks about his overuse of terms like, and seems to me, but we laughed and we loved, we lived. I'm just so grateful. I know he was happy. He's with his family. And that blonde-haired boy who did in fact turn brunette. He's not alone, and neither are we. He will live forever. And if nothing else, Johnny Green.